This video is dedicated to the enslaved Africans of Catoctin Furnace. Catoctin Furnace represents in microcosm the American Industrial Revolution. From 1776 to 1903, iron companies cast both raw pig iron and iron implements, and the furnace site grew into an industrial complex. At least 271 enslaved people of African ancestry worked at Catoctin Furnace between the 1770s and the 1840s, and many were buried in the African American cemetery. In the 1970s, highway construction and associated archaeological investigations restored attention to the 200-plus-year-old burial ground. The Catoctin Furnace Historical Society, founded in 1973, continues to commemorate, preserve, and interpret the diverse history of the village. Catoctin SlaveSpeak is a collection of narrative poems written in the voice of enslaved Africans who were imported to work at the furnace. They are based on available archaeological and forensic anthropological evidence resulting from the studies conducted on behalf of the Catoctin Furnace Historical Society. They also draw on general knowledge of the peculiar institution of slavery in the United States of America and throughout the African diaspora. They are the result of many hours of walking the earth, visiting the cemetery, studying the history, quiet listening, intuitive knowing, and creative writing by the author Elaine Bond Hyman. The poem gives voice to heretofore voiceless, often ignored, and uncredited segment of Maryland's historic population. The Catoctin Furnace Historical Society believes that the poem's availability in video form will enrich the experience of viewers' interest in learning the full story of the Catoctin Iron Furnace. It is hoped that this poetic, artistic, and emotional enrichment can foster a changed conversation about those upon whose backs the foundation of the state of Maryland's rest.
For hundreds of years, the dead bodies of enslaved Africans who lived and worked at Catoctin Furnace were hidden in plain sight. Though buried on land set aside as a cemetery, no one visits their graves. No flowers are laid. No honoring songs are sung by their generations. Yet there are those who stand by as witnesses. Embedded in the rocks, the creeks, the grasses, and the trees, the memories of them reside, a people long lost. This is their testimony. We've stood here for quite a while. Through slave bodies we've grown, weathering storms of snow and ice, while furnace ash blasted down. Our bark grows rough and tough. Soft slave skin lines our trunks. We shelter skeletal manes. Work east face is enough. We felt men bring slave bodies up, toss them at our roots. Their pinch-toed coffin we split wide, their shrouds we have devoured. Their skin flakes off, dark black, light brown, layering this mud-soaked ground that feeds our brambled grove. Slave bodies twisted, tangled in the dirt we hold in place. The air once fouled with iron ore, a burned up, burning space. The hills laid bare for charcoal fire, old growth passed out of sight. We heard their sorrow songs moaned in the dark of night. The cry of infants dead, slave mothers mourned alive. Lungs struck black with lash and whip, slave bones crunched with iron chains, slave marrow feeds us now. Slave tears pullied up our trunks, commingled with the rain. We stand here, live witnesses, sentient to slave pain, while gravestones hide and peek. When harsh wind blows upon our heads, tearing at our limbs, or sun sucks dry small woodland creeks, wastewater's precious drops, we come together, branching up, join hands in silent hymns. We sway toward one another, supported by the songs. Slave voices whisper from below and steady us along. For even in our shadowed grove, slave bodies reach toward life. When Baker Johnson, an owner of the Catoctin Furnace and brother of Thomas Johnson, died in 1811, he held 71 enslaved people as his property. In his will, as was the custom, his property was distributed among his wife and 7 children. To his 24-year-old son, Baker Johnson Jr., went the enslaved female called Yellow Girl. This poem is dedicated to her. Say her name. Call me honey. That was my name. Said I was sweet like sugar, just ripe like a peach. Can't tell it from the pit. I wasn't black by skin. My hair be wavy, sometimes straight. My nose not broad, but narrow. My skin be honey-toned. But I be here just like the rest. My mama black is cold. My daddy moon white. He gave me babies too. We worked inside, didn't keep us safe. Wore Mrs. Hand-me-downs, same hand, so quick to strike. Moon white coming at night. Boots crunching on the path, twigs crackling, owls hooting, critters running in them woods. My heart be beating extra hard. My head be pounding too. My lips be thin stretched across my teeth. I almost couldn't breathe. He taking me up anyways. Seemed like he enjoyed the way he could toss me down then up. Like to lick and tickle my skin with his tongue, then bite me with his teeth. I weren't but 8 or 9, hopping back and forth when moonlight caught me. His breath be stank. His hands be rough, pulling down my pants. It hurt me something awful. First time he slapped my rump and mounted me from behind. It hurt me. Something awful. He was too big for me. That time I bleed, I thought I'd be dead. Woke choking from the weight on moon white heavy on my neck. Mama come to fetch me quick or lay her body near to mine. She hoping he'd take her instead. Sometime he did. Sometime not. We both was expecting. Them children's come out screaming. I didn't have no milk like Mama. She nursed the 2 of them till her tits run dry. Some babies look like me, honey brown or pink, skin shade charcoal from the furnace, dark like molasses or high butter yellow, milky white like that moon. Hair be smooth or woolly. Died before their time. Thank God they never knew what my black mama knew. We was slaves, especially when we did taste like honey. The records of Catoctin Furnace reveal the existence of at least 271 souls who were owned and worked as enslaved persons. They worked in the furnace and surrounding village without pay, without recognition, without ceasing. They were considered property. Recognizing them as human beings, we restore their humanity whenever we speak their names. This poem exists to do that work. Property, something owned or possessed, worked, rented out, sold, used as business collateral, given away. Black bones laying in a ditch 200 years unattended, waiting, waiting, waiting. In death, they're property, unclaimed, unvisited, unknown, deflowered in unmarked graves. Owned, lock, stock, and barrel, guns pointed at their heads, trigger-happy neighbors waiting, waiting, waiting. Stones cry out, black bones rattle, roll the call of their names. George, George, Harrison, Henry, Harry, Isaac, Leonard, Lucky, Lucy, Peter, Sari, Stacy, Wally, Sarah, Leonard, Jeremiah, Henry, Peter, Nathaniel, Ruth. Whites own their eyes, blinded them. Jack, James, Millie, Phil, Ben, Nellie, Sam, John, Thomas, John, Clemens, Jenny, Polly, Rachel, Katie, Samuel, Hercules. Whites own their lips, muzzled them. Clemens, Maria, Petty, Sammy, Susanna, Allie, Ann, Ben, Betty, Betty, Big Dick, Bill, 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 Katie, Charlotte, Christina, Chloe, Esther, Elsie. Whites on their hands, manacled them. Farm Jacob, Frederick, George, Harriet, Harry, Harvey, Henry, Hetty, Humbert, Jack, Jacob, Jane, 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 Janie, Joe, Larkin, Len, Lewis, Liddy. Whites on their feet, shackled them. Little Bill, Locke, Lorena, Lucinda, Magdalene, Mary, Maria, Mary, Maddie, Mill, Millie, Mingo, Nanny, Ned, Nell, old Hannah, old Will, Paris, Pris. Whites on their flesh, branded them. Reese, Romeo, Rose, Sal, Sammy, Sam, Samuel, Sue, Sue, Toby, Wally, Will, Hanson, Big Bill, Daniel, Isaac, John, William, William of Elizabeth. Whites own their vaginas, raped them. Lucy, Jane, Caroline, Georgiana, Emily, Anise, Sarah, Mary, Ellen, Mary, Meredith, Bessie, Anne, Anna, Mary, Caroline. Whites on their necks, hung them. Andrew, Julia, Lucy, Mary, Peter, Sarah, Sylvester, Andrew, Eliza, John, Joseph, Mary, William, Martha, Philip, Sarah, Henry, Elizabeth, Hezekiah, John, Nathan, Otho, Sarah, Susan, Anne, Isaac, John, Julia, Nick, Peter, Sarah, Simon. Writes on their packs. Broke them. Jacob, Moses, Nicholas, Richard, Mary, Daniel, Anne, Anthony, Richard, James, Patsy, Nace, Rachel, Anne, Bill, Bob, Charity, Christiana, David, Eliza. Who owns the owner's property? Unknown, 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 unknown. Polly, Richard, William, Priscilla, Phoebe, George, Jesse, Thomas, James, Richard Jr., Thomas, Henry, Benjamin. Unknown. Much has been made of the life and heroic work of Harriet Tubman, a Maryland woman who escaped slavery and bravely came back to rescue at least 70 people and gave instructions for escape for dozens more. Less well known are the lives of those Maryland women, men, and children who did not escape, but lived out their days in slavery. Many lived and worked at Catoctin Furnace. Here, the work which occupied both Africans and Europeans was focused on making iron. It had many uses. It's possible that manacles and leg irons to prevent escape and punish those who tried were forged here. This poem is dedicated to those whose only escape was death. Ain't Harriet say, is you tired? Keep going. Is you scared? Keep going. Is you hungry? Keep going. Is you want to taste freedom? Keep going. I don't know nothing about no freedom. I was born and bred to work. Born over in there in them hills. My mama laid down one day from her work. Lay down with me in her belly. When she got up to finish her work, I'd been done come out her belly. And that was work. She done her work with me, hanging on tight to her back or onto her tits, me curled round her belly. And that was work. My mama buried in them hills, she about worked to death. They took me from her. When her belly swelled up again, there was another baby in there trying to get out. That one didn't make it. Still hear my mama groaning in the middle of the night, see her bleeding real bad too. Said she couldn't get that baby out. They both screamed themselves to death. And all of a sudden, not a peep, not a whimper. Woods got still and quiet like I were laying close up to my sister and we was trying not to cry. Next thing I know, they told me my mama dead. Didn't know nothing about no dead. Dead mean no more sound. No more smiles at me when she see me coming up the path with a cup of water for her freshman. Dead mean no belly to curl up against on a cold night when the wind is beating on them trees, knocking off them leaves, making them twirl and tumble to the ground. Dead mean when them pine trees scratch and whistle, talking to theyselves, ain't nobody care what they has to say. Dead mean them rocks got stuck over top my mama's head. They be jammed into the dirt where her body got throwed. Dead mean I ain't never, ever, never hear nobody call me baby no more. Dead mean I ain't got no name but Gal. Gal, listen. gal that. Now I knows about work too. I knows about iron work. I ain't one to pull it out them mountains. I ain't one to take it and throw it in them red hot coals. I ain't one to stand in that heat, that hard. I the one stand over the wash tub, scrubbing and rubbing they clothes, beating out the black and the soot, fetch it gal, lift it gal. I the one making they soap out of lye. I the one with burnt fingers. I the one with skin peeled away, muscles torn and shredded from they bones. I the one grabbing they buckets and filling them up, watching that water turn gray, running blood red, bleaching with bluing. I the one scrub it, gal, on your knees, gal. I the one trying to please them. Get up, gal. Get down, gal. Can't make them happy no how. Come here, gal. Go there, gal. I the one try to please myself. Watch it, gal. Don't sass me, gal. I the one try running away. I'll whoop you, gal. Made it down that road past that barn, same road my papa ran down when I was young. Never did see him no more. I the one they caught. I the one that branded with that iron. I the one wore shackles around my feet. I the one ankle bleeding where that iron cut my leg. Walking back and forth, hanging up day clothes in their yard. I the one hit in the head and beat on the back. I the one cut on the hand and slap on the face. I that one. Commander of the Confederate Army, General Lee, surrendered to the commanding general of the United States Army, General Grant, on April 9, 1865. This surrender marked the beginning of the end of the Civil War. That end was officially declared by President Johnson, August 1866. The state of Maryland sent its soldiers to fight on the Union side. So at the end of the war, during a period of Reconstruction, came the promise of 40 acres and a mule to those who had toiled while enslaved without pay or property to call their own. That promise has yet to be fulfilled. The state of Maryland owes a debt yet to be honored to all of those upon whose backs and by whose labor the state was founded. This poem is dedicated to Reconstruction's promise of reparation. This garden howls for sunlight, sitting as it does on raised box soil, spring planted by those who fancy days gone by. This garden remembers the murmurs and the moans of bones long buried but unboxed in its blood-soaked soil. This garden seeks the reign of an idyllic past, one that never happened or is yet to be. This garden is a scream, a cry, a longing, a begging of its dirt to note the day and date and time when brittle dried up bones will walk and talk their tales for recompense of 40 acres and one mule.